Welcome to a journey through the fundamentals of the Indian Constitution, the foundation of the largest democracy in the world. The birth of the Indian Constitution is a tale of resilience, unity, and foresight. It emerged from the ashes of colonial rule after India gained independence in August of 1947. The task of crafting a constitution for the newly independent nation was entrusted to the Constituent Assembly, a body of elected representatives. They were visionaries, tasked with creating a blueprint for governance that would uphold the principles of justice, equality, and liberty. After 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days of rigorous deliberation, the Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution on November 26, 1949. However, it was not until January 26, 1950, that the Constitution was fully enacted, marking the birth of the Indian Republic. So, the Indian Constitution was born out of the need for a governing document to guide this newly independent nation. Moving on to the Preamble, often referred to as the soul of our Constitution. The Preamble isn't just an introduction, it's a powerful declaration of intent, underlining the collective values and aspirations that guided our nation's founding fathers. It serves a vital purpose, setting out the Constitution's broad objectives: justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Let's explore these a bit. When we say we're a sovereign nation, it means we're free from external control. We're a socialist society striving for social equality. We're secular, respecting all religions equally. We're democratic, where power is vested in the people. And finally, we're a republic, meaning our head of state is elected, not a monarch. Each of these key phrases holds a world of meaning, embodying the spirit of our Constitution. They represent the fundamental values that we, as a nation, hold dear. The Preamble sets the tone for the rest of the Constitution, outlining the fundamental principles and philosophy at its core. Now, let's dive into the fundamental rights, essential pillars of Indian democracy. Imagine a world where everyone is equal. This is what the right to equality envisions. It prohibits discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. It also ensures equality of opportunity in matters of public employment, abolishing untouchability and titles. Picture a world where you are free to express yourself, assemble peacefully, form associations, move freely, reside anywhere, and practice any profession. This is the right to freedom, offering a broad spectrum of liberties. Now, consider a world where no one is exploited, where children are not forced into labor, and where human trafficking is non-existent. This is the vision of the right against exploitation, a protective shield against inhumane practices. Imagine a world where you can practice your religion freely, without interference or fear. This is the right to freedom of religion, ensuring religious tolerance and peace. Envision a world where every culture, language, and script is preserved, where minorities have the right to establish and administer educational institutions. This is what cultural and educational rights aspire to achieve: the preservation of diversity and cultural heritage. Lastly, imagine a world where if any of your fundamental rights are violated, you have the power to move the court. This is the right to constitutional remedies, the heart and soul of our fundamental rights, because it makes them enforceable. Each of these rights is a pillar supporting the grand edifice of democracy. They create a society where every individual has the freedom to grow, express, and live without fear or discrimination. They ensure that the power of the government is checked, and that it cannot infringe upon the liberty of its citizens. They uphold the principles of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity as envisioned in the Preamble of our Constitution. These rights are crucial as they safeguard individual freedom and promote equality. Next up, the Directive principles of state policy, the guiding light for the Indian state. Now let's delve into the heart of the Indian Constitution, where the nation's aspirations and the means to achieve them are outlined. The Directive Principles of State Policy, or DPSP, as they are often abbreviated, act as the guiding light, illuminating the path for the Indian state to follow. Imagine these principles as a blueprint, a roadmap, if you will, that the government uses to navigate the complex terrain of governance. They guide the state in its efforts to create a just society, where social, economic, and political justice prevails. The Directive principles emphasize the importance of social justice, urging the state to minimize inequalities in income and eliminate inequalities in status. They call upon the government to strive towards providing adequate means of livelihood for all its citizens and to ensure the right to work, education, and public assistance in cases of unemployment, old age, sickness, and disablement. Economic justice, another major principle, advocates for the distribution of wealth for the common good, to prevent the concentration of wealth and means of production in the hands of a few. This is where the principle of a welfare state comes into play, where the state takes upon itself to promote the welfare of the people by securing a social order. Political justice, on the other hand, seeks to provide equal political rights to all citizens without discrimination. This principle aims to ensure that every citizen, irrespective of their social or economic status, has an equal voice in the political process. Yet, it's important to remember that these principles are non-justiciable, meaning they are not enforceable by law. This doesn't make them any less significant, though. They are, in essence, the conscience of the Constitution, providing guidance to the government in making policies and legislating laws. They are the beacon that guides the ship of the Indian state towards the shore of a just and equitable society. Though not enforceable by law, these principles guide the government in making policies for the welfare of the people. Now let's understand the structure and functioning of the government under the Indian Constitution. The Indian government is structured into three main branches, each with its distinct role: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. This division is designed to ensure a balanced distribution of power and prevent the misuse of authority. First, we have the legislature. Its primary role is to make laws. It consists of two houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, together known as the Parliament. The Lok Sabha, or House of the People, is the lower house, while the Rajya Sabha, or Council of States, is the upper house. Members of the Lok Sabha are directly elected by the people, while the Rajya Sabha members are elected by members of the state legislative assemblies. Next, we have the executive branch. This branch is responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws that the legislature makes. The executive branch comprises the President, the Vice President, the Prime Minister, and the Council of Ministers. The President is the head of state, while the Prime Minister is the head of government. Finally, the judiciary branch is the system of courts that interprets and applies the law. The Supreme Court is the highest court in India, followed by high courts at the state level and then district courts. The judiciary ensures that laws are just and fair, and it protects the rights of citizens. Now, you might wonder, what keeps one branch from becoming too powerful? That's where the system of checks and balances comes into play. Each branch has powers that check the other branches to ensure that no single branch becomes too powerful. For example, the legislature makes laws, but those laws can be declared unconstitutional by the judiciary. Similarly, the executive implements the laws, but the legislature can question the executive's actions through question hours and debates. This structure ensures a balanced distribution of power and prevents the misuse of authority. Finally, we come to the amendments, the mechanism that keeps our constitution alive and relevant. Now, why do we need amendments? Well, it's simple. Over time, societies change, and so do their needs and aspirations. The Constitution, as a living document, must reflect these shifts to stay effective. The process of amending the Constitution involves a proposal, debate, voting, and finally ratification. It's a rigorous process that ensures every change is carefully considered. Let's consider a few significant amendments for clarity. The 25th Amendment, for instance, provided for a stronger directive for the promotion of social justice. The 42nd Amendment, often referred to as the mini-constitution, brought about sweeping changes in the structure of the Constitution, emphasizing the primacy of the directive principles over fundamental rights. Through amendments, the Constitution evolves, adapting to the changing needs of society. These changes, these amendments, ensure that our Constitution remains a living, breathing document, always relevant, always resonant. Having journeyed through the Indian Constitution, it's time to test your understanding. So, let's dive right into the first question. Can you name the body that framed the Indian Constitution? Go on, drop your answers in the comments below. Moving on to question number 2. What is the preamble often referred to as and why? Next up, question number 3. Can you list down at least 3 fundamental rights that are guaranteed by our Constitution? Question 4 is a bit tricky. What are the directive principles of state policy and why are they called the guiding light? Finally, for our last question, can you tell us how the Constitution can be amended? That's it, folks. We're eager to see your answers. Remember, the Constitution is not just a document, but a living entity that shapes our democracy. Keep learning, keep growing.